We're not kicking off the year with new me, new year, new energy, new whatever. That's not how we're starting this year. We're starting this year with how to avoid burnout in 2026. And you know what? I think this is such an important conversation because towards the end of last year, I had so many discussions with friends who were going through some pretty significant fatigue and burnout. And I think this is something so important for how we shape the beginning of the year. And so I'm joined by my really good friend, Phil Wolffe, who is the founder of Kinex Health, a workplace wellbeing company that helps organizations embed practical wellbeing strategies into everyday work to boost performance, energy, and resilience. And we're going to be talking all things burnout, fatigue, and how you manage your energy in 2026. This conversation is really raw, super practical. Oh my gosh, you're going to get so much out of it. I was having like mind blown moments as Phil was talking, which you'll hear throughout. I just cannot come at a better time. You're going to love it. Let's go. This is a podcast about making work work. You'll learn about leadership, career growth, and how to navigate those weird work challenges. I run a HR consulting business called Boldside, where I help leaders build epic team cultures. If you lead a team or run a business and you think I can help, let's connect on LinkedIn. My name is Shelley Johnson, and this is Work. Phil Wolffe, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Shell.
We're going to get straight into it. And you know how, every new year, people are like, new year, new me. And I'm like, no. You know what I want to do in the new year? I want to avoid burnout.
Yes. Hopefully, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what I think is like, instead of thinking new year, new energy, new me, new this, new that, like do the resolutions, I'm like, actually, you know what? I want to get to the end of 2026 and not be exhausted.
Yep.
I don't want to burn out. And I want people who are listening to not burn out. And you look after and support people in their well-being every day. Let's talk about, though, first, how to handle this thing. How can we avoid fatigue and burnout at work?
Yeah, it's a huge question with a lot of different moving parts. But basically, we have to change the way that we look at fatigue and the way that we look at energy management. So a lot of our thoughts, a lot of our effort goes towards time management, but it's more about energy because there's plenty of time. If you're sleeping, let's call it 7 hours a night, and your work is taking you 8 to 9 hours, let's say that's taking up 16 hours of your day, there's 8 more hours to do stuff. That's a lot of time. That's time for hobbies, that's time for family time, that's time for exercise, that's time to plan your meals, that's heaps and heaps of time. But at the end of the day, you don't want to do any of that. You just want to sit down because you're buggered. So it's not so much about where we're spending our time, it's how we're spending our energy. So when we look at it that way, where are we directing our energy? How can we get more and how can we spend it more wisely? That's what we've got to be thinking of. And elite sport gets this right. It's not necessarily about how hard you can train. It's how well can you recover so that you can train again and again and again. And that's what we don't look at it as. We don't look at ourselves as athletes. We just allow things to happen rather than constructing our energy patterns and working within our energy patterns to make sure that we're getting the best out of ourselves, not just today, but tomorrow and the next day and next week and next month. Because it's not so much about getting higher highs. It's about getting higher lows, higher and fewer lows. That's what our performance should be about. So how do we actually raise the lowest level of our performance consistently and replace our energy? That's more what we should be looking at.
So our goal is more consistency in the energy levels rather than having these peaks where we've got these drastically different, like I could have a lot of energy today, but tomorrow I'm going to be cooked. That's exactly it,
yeah. Because if you're given 100, like you're given 100 this week because you just got to get everything done and this project is just beating your ass and you got to get it done. Next week, if you give 100, you're not going to get 100 output. You're going to get maybe 95. And the week after, you're going to give 100 and you're probably going to get 90 and then 85 and 80. And over time, that performance declines, but you're still given 100% effort. So for you, subjectively, the effort is still just as hard. The work is still just as hard, but you're getting declining results. If on the flip side, you're giving 85, you can probably give 85 forever. And over the course of a month, a quarter, a year, 10 years, a career, you're going to get way, way more out of yourself than if you gave 100 and declined your performance. So I think that's how we got to look at it. Give 85 every day, and then you've still got margin to ramp that up when things really do hit the fan. You can go up to 100 when you need to. If you're already at 100, you got nowhere to go.
Butt down.
Butt down, exactly. Yeah.
And it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns, right? I'm just thinking about this as far as like, how do we have high performance sustainably? And we're going to get to how we build that high performance in a sustainable way. But I've been quite a few of my really good friends recently have gone through pretty heavy, like what I would consider as extreme burnout. Like not like, you know, when people are like, I'm burnt out, but they're just tired. Or they're just like, there's actually the diagnosable version of burnout where a doctor will say, yeah, you're burnt out, almost to like even some symptoms of, I would say, like chronic fatigue, such like deep like lethargy. And I think when you've had those experiences, they change you forever because like you don't realize how important your energy is until you haven't had it, until you've hit a really dramatic period of burnout where you're like, I can't physically get out of bed day after day after day. And I've been thinking, Phil, about this idea of fatigue is such a vicious cycle because, like, I don't know, it's like there's the habits, there's the behavioural stuff that goes with it. And I'm just thinking out loud, like, what would you say for someone who's in that period of burnout? And has this been something you've experienced yourself?
Yes, it is something I've experienced myself, and we deal with a lot of people who are in various stages of burnout. And I think there's one thing to really get clear about. Burnout looks different across everyone. Like I've never met two people whose experiences or causes or risk factors are exactly the same. It doesn't mean that it's not real to them. And I think it's really important to understand that burnout is a syndrome. It's not a medical condition. It has a lot of the same hallmarks as a mental health condition, but it's a syndrome, which means that it could come from many or varied causes and expresses itself differently. It's not the flu. It's not a broken leg. It's not gastro. We know the cause of that and we know the outcome. A syndrome is a lot more vague, a lot more complex. So your causes and your outcomes are going to be very, very different than the person next to you. My own experience with it was about 8 years ago. I was working on a gold mine in Papua New Guinea, running a health program. I had a team of about 12, 13 people. We were looking after 6,500 people, most of them locals. And generally, I'd be up and in the mess by about 5:15, on site by 5:45, in face-to-face consultations, in meetings, in presentations, in planning, all of that until about 7:30 at night, get back, debrief with the team, get in the mess about 8, go to bed, get up, do it again the next day. And you do that for between, depending on your swing, 16 to 24 days. The longest, I think, was 28. And you have no days off in that time.
Wow.
And it doesn't take a genius or a health expert to tell you that's an unsustainable workload. And I thought I could do it because I was sleeping well, I was eating well, I was exercising, I was doing all the things that I should do to keep myself good. But I saw the warning signs coming and I ignored them because I thought, I'm the health and wellbeing guy, it's going to be fine. I was getting fatigued, I was having memory lapses, my decision-making was terrible, my patience was getting really, really thin. And I pushed through it until I went to sleep one night and I literally woke up the next day and I just lost the ability to care about the work that we were doing, which for me, who's built my entire career and a huge part of my identity around helping people, like that's such a huge part of my purpose, what I'm actually here for. To not be able to care about them anymore was really, really tough. And yeah, I put in my notice. Not long after that, I think it was the next day or a couple of days after, I had a conversation with my supervisor, didn't tell him. The reaction to his reaction to me telling him that I needed a little bit of time, maybe less tasks, was less than favourable, and I just snapped and quit on the spot. Had to finish that swing, which was really, really hard, and then had to come back for another one to train the new guy, which was torture. And then it took me a long time to get back from that, a long time to start caring again. Because burnout, we know it comes across three fields. It's emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. My emotional exhaustion was very high, but the worst part was my cynicism was through the roof.
Wow.
I just couldn't bring myself to get into it, to care about it, to do this thing that I was yesterday so incredibly passionate about. And in the 8 years since, I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands of people in different stages of burnout. None of them have the same experience. None of them have the same risk factors. None of them have the same outcomes. It doesn't mean that theirs or mine or anyone else's is any less real. So there's not one way that we can avoid burnout. There's a multitude of ways, and it just depends. Really, what we've got to do is build a skill set that allows us to adapt our circumstances contextually. That's really what it's about. And there's a number of different ways that we can do that, but there's not just one black and white, this is what you have to do to avoid burnout.
I want to dig into your story a little bit. It's really interesting you say the thing about care, because just before you said that, I wrote care-based roles on my notepad, because, and it's really interesting to me hearing your story, because I know you and know how, I think part of your purpose is deep care for people. It's part of who you are, what makes you so successful in what you do, but also you do genuinely care about people and about their health, well-being, how they live out their purpose, and I think that's part of your purpose. And as you were describing that, I was just imagining Phil like that, and going, I can't even see you like that of the detached, withdrawn, don't care, because it's the antithesis to who you are as a person. And it just made me think, and I'm thinking about another couple of good friends who have gone through really, really serious periods of burnout, where I think it actually does this really debilitating thing where burnout attacks your sense of purpose.
Yeah.
It gets to, in those really severe cases, the heart of who you are and how you show up, and it almost I don't know how to describe it. I'm actually struggling to describe it, but I think it inhibits you fulfilling your purpose and your personal mission, because you're the exact thing that makes you so successful and effective is the exact thing that's been undermined because of the burnout.
Yeah.
The care, which is what, it's just uncanny that I've written this on my notes, because when you said that, I lost my ability to care, which is part of who you are. I'm it's just so shit, because it's the burnout gets to the core of who you are and it attacks that thing that gives you so much purpose and energy. And that's why I think about this vicious cycle of burnout and fatigue, because if you're not getting that sense of purpose from your work, you don't get that energy replenishment either. I know this is meta what I'm saying, but as you're hearing that, Phil, am I making any sense to you at all?
That makes perfect sense to me, because that's exactly what it did. Driving so hard towards my purpose, when I burnt out, it exactly did that. It shook me to my core because it took away that purpose. And I thought, how am I going to get this back?
Yes.
I've spent so long building this set of skills and building this identity and building towards this purpose, and now that is gone. And it's kind of like when you're starving hungry, you can't imagine what it's like to be full. And when you're super full, you can't imagine what it's like to be starving hungry. I couldn't imagine what it was like before, when I had this drive, this purpose. So I was lost. I was quite lost for quite a while. I actually started this company. I started Kinex Health a couple of weeks after I got home. And if anyone's looking for small business advice, don't do that.
When you're
Don't
burnt out.
start a company when you're in the middle of a burnout, right at the beginning, in the depths of a burnout episode. Like I found myself working an hour a day. I couldn't bring myself to do any more. So I'd get up and I'd be all gung-ho and be like, yeah, let's do it. Today's going to be the day. And I'd work for an hour and then I'd just lose it. I just couldn't focus and I just couldn't bring myself to do another thing. And I'd sit and I'd watch TV. And I did that for months. So Kinex Health right at the start, this company sucked. It was terrible. Honestly, it took us ages because that was my experience and I just was not able to bring that energy, to bring that attention to what I was doing. And it took a real hard reset, going back to the absolute fundamentals, the things that I know worked, getting back to my sleep, my exercise, taking care of myself, making sure that I was doing things to replenish my energy, mostly my emotional energy. And slowly it started to come back. And it wasn't like it was just bang, here we go. It was a process over time that took a lot of work. And now I protect my energy above everything. So right on top of my values and right on top of our company's values is wellbeing. So we're in the service business. It is our job to take care of people, to help people. But their well-being never, ever comes at the cost of ours. It comes because of it. So if there's anything that is going to really negatively impact mine or my people's well-being, we don't do it. That's right at the top, because I will never, ever go through that. And I'll never ask anyone or allow anyone else under my care to go through that. That's number one.
I want to understand, like, when you say it took a long time to recover, what did that recovery process look like for you?
Yeah, it was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of getting back to what are my values? What do I actually want to do here? What do I want to get out of this? And as I said, going back to basics. So taking it back to the things that give me energy. And one of those things, like I'm a huge advocate for going for a walk. Going for a walk is literally the most underrated health and wellbeing activity of all time. Like it's movement, it's exercise, it's lymphatic drainage, it's blood flow, it's getting your joints moving, it's sunlight, it's fresh air, it's time to space and time to think. I did a lot of walking, and that took a lot of pressure off and just allowed me to think about stuff, to think about what's important to me, to think about how I was actually going to progress, what was going to be my next move. That's not going to be the same for everyone, but that was my thing. I did a lot of walking and a lot of walking in nature. I know that sounds, I don't know, woo-woo or whatever.
No, it sounds great.
Yeah, it was a real recharge for me. And honestly, that was probably the main activity. That's how I did it. A lot of stuff along the way, but yeah, that helped me to no end.
You mentioned the 3 buckets when it comes to burnout. You said emotional energy, cynicism, and something efficacy.
Professional efficacy, like how good you are at your job, how good you feel you are at your job.
Can you talk to, you said the cynicism was really high and the emotional one was really high for you. Can you just unpack that a bit so people, because I think it's really good to have a framework to understand the signals. And as you said that, especially, I mean, the cynicism one's really interesting to me. So yeah, can you dig into that a bit more for people who are listening who like want to understand maybe some of those signals?
Yeah, the signals. So essentially, we look at energy really across 5 different spheres. So it's your physical energy, literally how much physical energy do you have in your body. It's your cognitive energy, so how much brain power do you have? How sharp are you? How good's your memory? How good your decision making? Your emotional energy, so not necessarily how happy you are, but how in control of your emotions are you? So let's say someone was to give you some bad news or you were entering into a conflict, how in control of yourself are you in that moment? It's your social energy, and we all have very, very different social batteries. I'm quite introverted. I love being with people. I love doing stuff like this. I love presenting and workshops and all of that, but it's an energy cost for me. And that was, on a side note, a huge component of my burnout, because I'm someone who needs time by themselves in order to recharge. And I was never, ever by myself. I was with 850 other guys in the mess. And then I was doing up to 25 individual consultations a day where you're hearing about people's issues and you hear about their challenges and you hear about their dreams and you try and get them over the former to reach the ladder. And you're doing that 25 times a day and you're constantly with people. And I figured out, unless I was asleep or in the shower, I was never, ever by myself for 3 weeks straight. And the last one is your purpose or your spiritual energy.
Yeah, okay.
And that covers a lot of bases because, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later, but purpose makes up for a lot of shortfalls in other areas.
Right.
And when you're hitting emotional exhaustion, essentially all of those are dropping down because you just can't bring yourself to put as much energy, to put as much attention, to put as much focus into any of those aspects or into any of the things that replenish those aspects. So you're not exercising, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're not either being with people or being away from people, whether you're introverted or extroverted. You're not doing the things that are giving you energy. So once that emotional exhaustion starts to hit, all of the other activities that give you the energy to push past that start to diminish. And the cynicism, because of that, starts to grow when you take a couple of hits to your purpose, when someone tells you you're not doing a good job, or when you don't do a good job and you recognize that. And when your energy starts to dip, you can't do as well. So your cynicism starts to go up. You think, why am I even doing this? I'm trying my guts out, but I keep making mistakes, or I'm not getting the results that I want. And cynicism grows and grows and grows. And that's a really, really tough one to claw back once that starts. And once that really gets up high, that's a tough one to claw back. Your emotional exhaustion, oftentimes you can claw that back by just stopping, taking more breaks, doing more things that energize you. But once you start to get cynical about what you do, that's a really, really tough one.
I'm taking so many notes, and I know now people will be wanting to come back and take lots of notes here because this is so helpful. I really hope that people listening fully grab onto this because I honestly, this is such an important conversation. I'm so glad we're having it. I'm just thinking about this whole idea of and we may have talked about it in the past, either offline or on a pod previously, but I remember when I went through my burnout experience, I just, as you're describing, I'm like, I wish I knew this because it would have helped me identify it so much sooner, so much earlier. But I remember the very later stages when I was really quite unwell. My cognitive energy was still pretty strong and everything else was wiped.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like for me, if I'm looking at that going, it was so frustrating because I could feel like my brain wanted to do the things get up, go do the things I know, but none of my other energy, I had no social energy at all, could not see people, could not get out of bed. The physical energy was not there. I remember the flu-like symptoms, could not physically get out of bed for I'm not a day sleeper at all ever in my life. I've never been like that, but I physically could not get out of bed for what felt like a very awfully long time. And then as I'm hearing you describe that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think if I had known the emotional energy is how did you just, almost like the first domino?
Yeah.
Then the other, and I would have probably identified that sooner. I'm honestly having I'm having a mind blown moment, and people can probably hear it in how I'm talking because I really think this is such a powerful conversation for people to catch because then you see how this vicious cycle happens because if I can't fix those energy levels, how the heck do I get out of this shit show that I'm in?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Can't get out by doing the same shit that you're doing.
No. So what do we do? And keep going because I'm having my own moment here as I'm listening and people will be able to tell that. But This is so important. So what do we do, Phil?
Okay, so we hear a lot of talk about like resilience, like how do we become more resilient, or how do leaders make their teams more resilient? And I think what we've got is a fundamental misunderstanding of what resilience actually is. So by resilience, essentially, technically it means how quickly you bounce back from adversity. So not how well you can push through it, but how quickly you bounce back. That's not really what we're talking about when we say resilience. The functional definition, what we mean is how much shit can I throw at you and you still do a good job. That's what we mean when we say resilience in a sense like this. So, and it's functionally what we need to look at it as. It's not just toughness. It's not just grit. That's only part of it. So resilience essentially is grit plus skills plus connection times purpose. That's resilience. So grit, how do you teach that as a leader? I mean, you can't really teach that. You just got to throw shit at people and then they go through it. Grit comes from experience. Grit comes from, because grit is doing stuff that you would rather not do. Mm. You can't just do that all the time. You can't just white knuckle it your entire career. And even if you could, you don't have to. Plus skills. And I think this is the part where leaders really can intervene. Teach people the skills to be better, because often the people who we see who we think are tough or really gritty or really resilient, they're often not that tough. They're just not doing it as tough as you think. They have better energy management systems. They can regulate their nervous system. They have better recovery practices than you. They work within their performance patterns. They have focused work periods. They know how to look after their health and well-being and how to manage their performance better than someone else. So we see them as resilient and tough. They see themselves as systemized and skillful. That's a really important part. The connection part as well is, again, where leaders can intervene. How much support are you giving these people? How collaborative are they, and how collaborative do they feel? Do they feel supported by you? Do they feel safe? Because when we feel safe, we don't have to spend energy on protecting ourselves. We can spend energy on advancing. And protecting yourself takes a shitload of energy. Mm. So that connection is incredibly important. And then you times all of that by purpose. Have you got your people directed towards a purpose? Do they know what they're working for? Do they know what they're working towards, and do they know what they're working for? And you can find purpose in anything. You can find purpose in heart surgery, in teaching people. You can find purpose in pushing a broom. It doesn't matter. You just need to know where you're going and why you're going there. It's like the famous story, whether it happened or not, who knows, but it's a cool story. JFK was touring the NASA facility in Houston and asked the janitor, "What are you doing? What do you do here?" And he said, "I'm putting a man on the moon." Yeah, 100%. That's someone who knows where he's going and why he's doing it. He's going to be the best goddamn janitor on earth because he knows exactly where he's going and why he's going there. So when we look at resilience that way, it turns from this big ethereal, this conceptual idea into a set of steps that we can actually influence. So grit, yep, you get that by doing stuff that you'd rather not do, and sometimes that's really, really important. Skills, you can learn those skills. Anyone can learn the skills to be healthy and well and perform at a high level without burning themselves out. That's easy. It's really not that difficult. Connection, anyone can foster connection and support each other. And then purpose. Are your people aimed at the right thing, and do they know why the hell they're actually going there? That's resilience. That's the functional part of resilience that we skip by just thinking it's just toughness, toughen up, be better, be tougher. That's not useful.
Can I ask you about, you mentioned it a couple of times, this idea of helping people work within their performance patterns. Can you speak to what that means?
Yes. So your performance pattern essentially is like those 5 different types of energy that we talked about. Your performance pattern is how those fluctuate throughout the day, week, month. And if you can track that, which you can very easily, then you can work within those. So mine, I brought this for scrap paper, but this is actually a booklet that we used to use, we've gone paperless now, we used to use this booklet in our high performance workshops, in our sustainable performance workshops, and that's my performance pattern. So I've tracked my performance, my energy levels across physical, cognitive, emotional, and social.
How did you track it?
For a week, at the top of every hour, I gave myself a score out of 10.
Okay.
Asked myself 4 questions. If I was told to do something very physical right now, like if I had to run up a hill and unload a truck full of sandbags, how capable of doing that do I feel? If I was given a complex problem to solve, how ready do I feel to do that?
Okay, so at the time of this recording, your physical, I'm going to tell you, where were we at? 11:45.
Yeah.
Your physical energy, they're pretty high. You're at the highest point at 11 a.m. Your physical, so you could run up and get those sandbags out of that truck.
100%.
Let's pause this podcast.
All of my energies are peaking at this time.
Are
so
they?
if,
Okay. 11 a.m. is like, yeah.
If I'm struggling at the moment, then I'm just struggling in
but
general.
But your social energy is highest at 3 p.m. according to this.
And that's what was such a revelation for me. Like, I'm a morning person. Like, I wake up and I'm ready to go. Like, I get up about 5:10 and I either go to the gym or I start doing my hardest tasks first. And depending on what day it is, depends on what I do. But my social energy, and that keeps climbing. Cognitive and energy and physical energy keep climbing until about 11 to 12 o'clock. And then they start to drop off. At about 2 o'clock, they fall off a cliff. Mm-hmm. And then they pick up, physical energy picks up a little at night and then drops right off. And by 9 o'clock, I'm absolutely spent. By 9:15, I'm in bed. But the interesting thing for me was my social energy starts really, really low in the morning and it keeps climbing throughout the day. So if you met me in the morning, like early morning, you go, geez, that feels a grumpy prick. He's not a morning person, is he? But I am. I just not social in the morning. So what that allows me to do is I know that if I'm going to do something physical, or I'm going to do something that requires a lot of brain power, I'm going to do it before 12 o'clock or before 11 o'clock. After that, I'm going to get diminishing returns. Like if I try and do something at 3 o'clock, it's going to take me 2 hours, and at 8 o'clock, it's probably going to take me half an hour. So I don't do complex stuff at 3 o'clock. I save it for the next day. But my social energy keeps climbing. So sales calls, meeting up with friends, networking, catching up with our team, that all happens in the afternoon or evening when I actually want to be around people. So I don't work against my energy patterns, I work within them. That's my performance pattern. And that allows me to schedule work effectively because I hate waste. I want to be as efficient as possible because there's a lot of shit to do and I want to be able to do it all. So I work within my performance pattern. And everyone's got a different performance pattern. Everybody. You just got to figure out what yours is and work
And so what would be the best way for someone who hasn't, because I'm like already thinking, I'm going to do this. And the cool thing about this is like how I love how you always think about everyone as unique individuals, not, hey, if you're going to be successful, you must wake up at 5 a.m. and meditate for 40 minutes. Yeah, like it's just absolute ridiculous stuff that people put out there that they're like one size fits all. And like, hello, we're all so different. Like Annabelle on my team, she loves working. I don't know why. I'm always like, why are you like this? But she loves working from like 11 at night until, she can start at 11 and work until 1. And she's so productive.
Yeah,
she's
that's my nightmare.
I'm like, no, thank you. But she's so productive amazingly, and she can do heaps of deep work in that time. But I do think if someone wants to do this and work out when do they look at their work and do the most productive stuff in the day based on the energy levels across these 5 domains you mentioned, physical, cognitive, social, emotional, and purpose or spiritual. How can they track this?
Well, I'm going to give you this one. Like you can do this without, like that's what we use. Basically, at the top of every hour, you just write down or plot on that graph the answer to those 4 questions. So how physically, cognitively, emotionally, or socially ready do you feel?
On a scale of 1 to 10. So 0 being no energy, 10 being high energy.
100%. And if you want to get really, I'm a huge nerd, so I did this across a week and I averaged them all out. And then I plotted that graph. If you just want to do it for a day, that's totally fine. And then you answer that out of 10, and then that'll give you your performance pattern across a day. It's really, really easy to do. Just rate yourself out of 10 every hour across those 4 domains. And in one day, you've got a good basis. In 2 days, that's even better. Across a week, even better. It's really, really easy to do.
It'd be really cool. Do you have this as like a thing that people can download? Because like this would be so valuable for people to download as a resource.
Yes, I'll make that available. That's part of our sustainable high performance workshop that we run with a lot of teams. It makes up what we call a user manual.
So cool.
If you understand that about your teams, if you're a leader and you know everyone's performance patterns, you know how to delegate work to get the most out of them every time. And further to that, if you track people's best contact times. So I'm most contactable between the hours of this and this. I'm uncontactable between the hours of this and this.
Yeah, like I'm not going to call you at 7 a.m. because you're going to be like, Shell, I don't want to speak to you because I have no social energy.
Exactly.
But your cognitive energy and physical energy and emotional energy are high at 7 a.m.
Yep. So that's why I'm doing my toughest stuff.
Yeah. Your deep work in the morning.
Call me between 3 and 6. Love to have a chat right then. Like that's great.
I'm always surprised at how many, because you do look like a fair bit of like going to the conferences and networking events. And I'm always really impressed because I'm like, my social battery by then is cooked. Like, and you're there, and I'm like, there was one event we went to recently. Oh, it was a while ago, and I was so glad you were there. It was at night, and I'm like, Phil. Yeah. You're the only person I know here and I'm not leaving your side because I was like...
I felt the same. Like I was cooked that day. I was like, fuck, man, I don't want to be here. Like,
both of us... Yeah. Anyway, but...
I saw you. I was like, oh, thank God.
She's not okay. Yeah, that's the problem being 2 introverts. Just like, oh, gosh. Okay, sorry. That was an aside. What we might do is like, even if we put the link to your... Kinex or to wherever, and people can then message you to download it.
Yes. Because that one I'll make that available. Actually, someone just send me an email or send me a DM on LinkedIn and I'll send you that. But that's one part of
the whole workshop.
Sustainable High Performance Workshop, which is a 12-week program.
That you run with teams.
That we run with teams, yeah.
Which should be so good because I'm just processing this going, oh my gosh, I need to do this. Is amazing. Now, once you know it, then you then start to delegate work based on people's performance patterns so that instead of so that you're getting more out of the team and you're actually creating energy.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Okay. Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff like it's really, really easy to do. All of this stuff is really simple to do if you know to actually do it. But most people don't know to do it.
No, well,
I've some simple tweaks.
I've not thought about that, but I can feel in like certain times of the day where I've had to do like, so for example, I can't do deep work in the afternoons.
Yeah, no.
But for some reason, I still like try to put in my calendar, do this particular thing. I know, like,
yeah, it's a waste of time and energy.
And then I just sit there, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm not, and I'll scroll the internet or whatever.
That's exactly it. And that's why like we came up with this, because I found myself at so many times just wasting time. Like I'd start on something and then 10 minutes later my brain would be, it's like I'm chasing butterflies. But in the morning, like I'm dialed in, I'm ready to go and I actually want to do it. And when like so often I'll just stop work, even when there's a bunch of work to do in the afternoon, I'll go, no, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to go for a swim, I'm going to chill out, I'm going to do something else so that tomorrow I'm champing at the bit. I'm like, let's fucking go, rather than sitting there and bashing my head up against a brick wall.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how team culture influences this, because I think there's a big part of organizational culture where what we're talking about, you need an organisation to want to invest in people's energy and resilience. And so we'll get into that in just a moment.
Do you want to grow in your career? Are you after a fresh start or some inspiration? Or perhaps you're in a career crisis? The book Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money by Shelley Johnson and Glenn James is such a great resource at any stage in your career. It will give you practical strategies for things like getting a promotion, making more money, moving into a leadership role, taking career risks, or if it's time to quit your job, and so much more. You can find Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money wherever good books are sold or via the link in the podcast show notes. It's also available as an audiobook.
Okay, so I want to dig into what is the role of culture when it comes to resilience, well-being, and building what you say is a sustainable performance culture. Like, how do we help organisations to do this?
Yeah, it's massive. Culture is, I mean, as you would know, pretty much everything. And for mine, culture starts with purpose. Like, do we know where we're going and do we know why we're going there? And then everything sort of flows from that. And we can see that everyone says they have a high-performance culture or they want high performance, but they don't understand the tenets of what performance actually is and sustainable performance. So first and foremost, it starts with purpose and then an understanding of what actually makes up performance and what actually makes up sustainability. So do we understand that people can't give 100% all the time? Doesn't matter how resilient they are, you're going to get diminishing returns. So if the answer is yes, we do understand that, then we work backwards and go, okay, what can they give and what allows them to keep producing that level of performance and that level of energy indefinitely, really. And when we look at it that way, it then becomes a set of steps that we build in to our systems to allow them to do that. So how are we building in recovery time? Are we allowing them to work within their performance patterns? Are we allowing them true flexibility? Are we giving them the things that they need in order to succeed? An understanding of that is incredibly important. And I think a really good example of how culture influences performance is, I don't know how many of your listeners are rugby league fans, but the Penrith Panthers. And a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and go, oh my God, they're so boring. They just keep winning all the time. Yeah, the reason they keep winning is because they have that culture. They have a winning culture and they understand that you can't just go 100% all the time. Everyone always says it, and it's very true. They are a September football team. Like, they won't win all the games throughout the regular season, but when it gets to September, they just win. And on that connection to purpose, I think it's really interesting, and teams can take a lot from this. They had a purpose and a theme. They lost the 2020 grand final against the Melbourne Storm, a game they could have won but didn't, and that hurt them. Like, there wasn't a player on that field that wasn't crying. I was at that grand final. It was a tough one. The next year, their purpose and their theme was Everest. They were climbing Everest. So how do we get ourselves from the lowest point to the highest point? And they did. The next year, they won. And then after that, it was Top Gun. We want to be the best, and we proved that we're the best by winning 2 years in a row. And they did. And then the next year after that, like, it's almost impossible to stay at the top in an elite competition for 2 years in a row. Very, very, very few teams have ever done that.
Around the world, like in all
Around
codes,
the world,
yeah.
Absolutely. Let alone 3. So in the third year, their theme was hunting history. No team in the NRL era had ever won 3 grand finals in a row, and they did it. And the year after that, it was legacy. If we can win 4 grand finals in a row, no one will ever, ever come near that. And I truly believe that. No one will ever come near that. That was their culture. They had built a culture of winning and a culture of sustainable performance, and they all got up for that 4 years in a row. I don't know if this is coincidence, but 2025, I don't think they had a theme. They were just buggered because you cannot stay at the top. I didn't think you could stay at the top for 4 years. I didn't think you could stay at the top for 3 years, but they did it. And they couldn't do it the 5th year.
But they also had heaps of consistency in their playing group for those 4 years compared to the 5th year. Like this,
yes.
There is a lot more change 2025 comparatively to the years prior.
There is a lot more change, but I would argue that they lost more talent in the years prior than they did in 2025. Although, actually, yeah, that's a really good point. So they lost James Fisher-Harris, who James Fisher-Harris is, he's a workhorse. He's the alpha. He's the daddy. When you lose a guy like that, a lot of that culture goes with him. And I'm not saying that...
Well, it's culture and leadership, right? Like, it's really interesting. I think we think about where does culture come from, and culture always comes from leadership.
100%.
I think it's really interesting. I talked to a friend of mine who is like team culture expert, and the way he frames it is culture informs leadership. And I just think it's the reverse. I'm like, no, leaders shape culture, and cultures change as teams change. And so it starts with great leaders. And I think Ivan Cleary has done an absolutely insane job of building culture and building a culture that grows as the team grow and change. And going back to this question of what can organizations do, well, if I think about how you said your team culture at Kinex is wellbeing is right at the top.
Yeah.
That's because you as a leader get the importance of that. Leaders have to get the importance of how do we have, and we at Boldside we'd kind of refer to it as healthy high performance. Like it goes hand in hand. Before you have high performance, you have to have health.
Yeah.
So how do you get leaders to really buy into that? Because so many leaders are like, I want the outcome, but I don't want to invest in getting there.
Yeah, I mean that's the world that we live in. I want the outcome. I don't want to do the work. I want the secret. Tell me the secret. Well, the secret is not a secret, and it never has been. It's you have to do the work. If you want the outcomes, you have to do the work. And the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're not doing. You have to put in the work. There is no other way. So first of all, understand the importance. You know where you want to go, then you got to do what it takes to get there. So understanding performance and understanding the tenets of what make up that performance is the first step. And then, shockingly, doing the things that give you that is the next step. We can't just understand it or think or know that it's important without actually doing the things to get you there. That's the first thing. So do they understand it, and are they willing to do the stuff to get there? And honestly, it's not that hard. It really is not that hard. It's just putting in place the systems and the steps to get you there. I get really frustrated sometimes because it is so simple. It's just like improving your own health and well-being. It's a set of very, very simple fundamental steps done consistently with discipline over time. You're not going to turn your health around in a month. You're not going to do it. But in 6 months, yeah. In a year, for sure. In 5 years, in 10 years, 100%. By doing the things consistently that you know you need to do. If you don't do them, you won't get the outcomes. That's it.
It's really interesting, the power of simplicity, because I think we like to overcomplicate things. But I go back to your comment up front of how you got out of burnout was like the simple act of walking.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to become an ultra marathon runner. Like just chill. Like seriously, like I feel like we put these things where like, oh, if I'm going to get healthy, I've got to do I've got to kill all gluten, all dairy, got to start running and training for a marathon. No, like actually, do you know what you could do? Just have a half an hour walk.
Yeah.
Just start there, like small things. Like for me, I remember when we first maybe chatted a couple of years back on the pod. I can't actually remember when our first pod conversation was, but early days of you and I connecting around all this stuff. And you will remember this. I was not a person who would exercise ever. And I don't know how long it's been now that I would consistently, like almost daily exercised. But in part because of the stuff that we've talked about, just keep it simple. And so started with a daily walk. And it's changed my life, honestly. Like now I do a range of different stuff, but just starting with like the simplest thing of going, this is easy. It's got a level of ease to me.
Yeah.
Versus like feeling like you have to go through all these hurdles. Like, I don't know what it is, Phil, about us that we feel like we have to do everything all at once versus like small steps.
Yeah, because we can't see the benefits of small steps. Like you'll never notice the benefit to your overall health and well-being of one walk or one workout or one good meal, nor will you notice the detriment of not walking once or having a Mars bar or getting super drunk or whatever the case may be. One instance is not going to change the overall, but when you stack up all of those over time, that's what changes it. And yeah, we look at health as this huge mountain to climb. That's too far. I need to lose 20 kilos or 30 kilos, or my doctor said that I'm going to die if I don't start moving. And we look at that in the distance instead of going, okay, what can I do right now that I enjoy or don't mind to get me a little bit closer to that? And I think that's something that we don't really do a lot of. Do something that you enjoy. If you hate going to the gym, don't go to the gym.
Yes.
If you hate spin class, fuck spin class. Don't go. Go for a walk or dance or play tennis or swim or do something that you like. Anything. Like when it comes to health and well-being, it's not all or nothing, because we have this mentality of if I can't do it right, I might as well not do it at all. It's like I wake up and I planned a 45-minute run, but I woke up 10 minutes late. So it's only going to be 35 minutes.
Won't do it.
I'll just do it. I'll try again tomorrow. No. Go for 35 minutes. If you wake up 35 minutes late, you've only got 10 minutes, do 10 minutes. If you've only got 5, do 5. If you've got 1 minute, do 1. When it comes to health and well-being, anything, and I literally mean anything, is better than nothing. If you want to eat more veggies, 1 green bean is better than no green beans. Half a glass of water is better than no glasses of water. Just do what you can.
I have your voice in my head actually when I exercise now, where on days that I feel really tired, and because like we both travel heaps of work, and I'm always if I'm in a hotel and I'm like, oh, the gym here sucks. Yeah. Or like there's no way, I'm out of my routine. And I hear your voice saying, just 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And either you'll get the energy or you won't, but just say, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes. And I do that. And almost always we'll be like, I'm here now. This is fine.
Might as well do more.
Yeah, I'll just stay for another, 20 minutes and do my little 30-minute workout. And I never do more than 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
this
fine.
I just think 30-minute workout and I'm done. I'm happy with that. And I think I can sustain that. But I know if I try to put in the effort of, I will work out for 1 hour, I just know that for me, I'm not going to consistently be able to do that. But it's so funny how you say something is better than nothing, but we tend to have that all or nothing mentality when it comes to our health. It's a real trap, and then so we don't do anything.
Yep. That's the trap that most people are in. So, if there's a message from today, I hope there's a lot of messages from today, but do something, even the smallest thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And if you stack up enough good enough, you got something really, really great.
I want to talk about EAP because that's something that you're really passionate about. And I know we touched on earlier burnout, and I think like some of those early warning signs would be able to be identified if we had the right people in our world helping us. Yep. Sometimes we need external. And actually I find a common trend for people who go through burnout is someone in their world was saying, are you okay? What's going on? And they notice often before we notice ourselves. Can you just talk to us about EAP and what you see in that space?
Yes. So I don't know how much time we have to go through all of my issues with EAP. And
actually we should tell people what it is, Employee Assistance Program, an
Employee
acronym.
Assistance Program. So essentially a number you call that has therapists or psychologists or counsellors to help you when you're in mental health crisis. Now, that by its very design is a reactive system. So you are experiencing a mental health crisis, call the number on this poster, and then they'll triage you and they'll call you back when they have time and you'll get the next available stranger. That, by its very design, is when you're already in crisis. And it has really, really, really low engagement. So it's about 2 to 4% engagement levels, which we know is far, far, far below the people who are actually experiencing hardship. We know it's way below that. And one of the reasons for that is because, I think 2 main reasons for that. One is people don't feel they meet the threshold for what a mental health crisis is. So they think, I'm just struggling a little bit, I'm a little bit tired, I'm having a problem with a coworker or a family member or whatever, but I'm not in mental health crisis. I don't need to call someone. I'm not crazy. And they feel they don't meet the threshold, so they don't call. The other reason is a lot of EAPs are pay up front. So the organisation will pay for a certain amount of hours, and then every hour that the EAP provider has to deliver eats into their margin. So why would they
want people to engage?
They're incentivized for people to not be engaged, which for me is gross. Like, that's a messed up way to
Support
structure
people.
an industry that is for supporting people.
Wow.
So that and many, many other reasons, I do not like the way EAP is traditionally done. So instead of being I love that we have the mental health support. I think that's fantastic. But let's make it more proactive, more holistic. So let's get to people before they're actually in crisis. Do they need to speak to a psychologist, or do they need to speak to a dietitian or an exercise physiologist or a physio or a mental health expert to help them to structure their life or to start doing things that are going to improve their health and well-being, not just intervene when they're in crisis? And by the way, 3 or 4 or 5 hour-long consultations with someone over the phone that you don't know is not going to get you out of mental health crisis. That's not really going to happen. It's going to help, but that's not your solution. And if a reactive support system is your well-being strategy, then you're way, way behind the 8 ball. So what we've got to do is set up systems that support people before the fact, that help people to improve their health and well-being, that teach them the skills that we've been talking about, that embed well-being as part of the culture. That's what it should be. That's what we're really leaning into and have been for the last few years, creating a system that embeds well-being and is proactive and holistic, because that's the way that it should be done. So we call it Wellbeing Enrichment Program because I was not going to call it EAP. I've got too much baggage with that, with the actual term. And we support people before the fact. And if we're not engaging people, they don't pay for it, which makes a lot of sense to me. So we're incentivized from a business standpoint to engage people. That's the way it should work. If they don't use it, they don't pay for it. If they do use it, they pay for it. So everyone wins when they're engaged. And there's a lot of different aspects to this, but it's everything that we were talking about today. It's the skills, it's connecting to purpose, it's support, it's improving systems, it's all of that wrapped up into a wellbeing enrichment program package. And I want it to replace EAP. And we get asked this all the time. People are like, is this like trademarked? Like, aren't other companies just going to come in and copy what you're doing? Like, yeah, I freaking hope they do. Like, I hope that a TELUS Health or one of the other ones comes in and goes, actually, this is a really good structure. We're going to steal it. Good. Take the template, do that, and then roll that out across everybody. I don't care about that. I want this to be the way things are done more than I want to just be the only one doing it. That's gross. Let's make this the way things are done because it's a better way and it works.
If people want to engage with that, how would they best do that, Phil? If people listening, maybe they're in HR, maybe they're in people and culture, what's the best way for them to connect with you about that?
They can go onto our website, kinexhealth.com.au, which is going through a bit of a revamp at the moment. I don't like it so much. We need there's so many things on my list to do. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm like every day. They can email me, phil@kinexhealth.com.au. And
excuse me, I just
bless
sneezed. Carry on.
And then I can take them through. Well, I can send them more information on this to step them through exactly how this is done, what the benefits are, what's required of you, what the costs are, everything. If you're super duper happy with your EAP and you think it's doing a great job, then this is not it. And if your support strategy is just set and forget, if it's like, we've got an EAP, it's fine, tick that box, it's all good, it's doing its job, it's just sitting over there, then we're not the partner for you. That's not what we do. If you want to embed well-being into your culture and you want to actually be proactive and holistic, then let's have a chat. But we're not a set and forget. We've said no to people on that basis before. But reach out to me, LinkedIn, website, whatever, and I can take you through it.
Love it. Hey, one final question for you. Thinking about 2026, let's say someone's listening and they're a leader and maybe they don't have control over the strategy for they don't maybe have a budget or whatever for building wellbeing, but they actually want to take some practical steps to help build their team's resilience or wellbeing, and they really want to help their team avoid burnout. What's one final piece of advice you would have for anyone who's in a leadership role?
You can do a lot of this without any budget whatsoever. Like most of this you can do without budget. You just have to understand the link between where you want to go and what's actually going to help you to get there. So if I was to give you one place to start, it would be understanding resources versus requirements. So resources are everything that we have. It's our energy, it's our time, it's our skills, it's our hardware and software and footwear and all of that. And requirements is everything that we need to do. It's chores, it's deadlines, it's communication, it's groceries, it's all of that. And we tend to go into a negative energy space when requirements are consistently greater than our resources. So how are we growing our resources and how are we balancing that with our requirements? Then from there, you can draw straight lines into the actual steps to take to do that. So understanding that first and foremost, and then working with your team to build those resources and to balance those requirements. So is it a shortfall in time? Is it a shortfall in physical energy and cognitive energy and emotional energy? And working with them to build up those resources. You can do that in a bunch of different ways, but that's the first thing. Understand where you want to get to and commit to actually getting there. So I suppose, I've got 19 different things in my head at the moment, and they're all trying to, like Mr. Burns' sickness, they're all trying to get out the door at the same time. So I think I'm rambling, but commit to the process. Yeah. Understand where you want to get to, commit to the process. You're going to fuck up heaps along the way, but committing to it is the number one thing because you're going to get more right than wrong if you actually care.
I love it. Hey, there's been so many good aha moments for me in this conversation. Absolutely loved it. I think the biggest thing is going, okay, how do we actually understand and spot some of those early warning signals, and what are the simple strategies to help us build our energy levels? You don't have to become an ultra marathon runner. You don't have to, do 2 hours at the gym or 45 minutes daily meditation, but do the simple things consistently, knowing that your energy matters. Your energy management matters more than your time management. And I just want to say thanks for making the time to come up here and have this conversation, because I think this is a beautiful way to start the year. So thank you. It's not new year, new me. It's actually like, hey, how do we look after ourselves in 2026?
Yeah, basically. Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this, as always.
As always. Hey, well, anyone wants to connect with Phil, you can find him on LinkedIn. We'll put in the show notes his website as well as his LinkedIn. Connect with him if you want that performance pattern identification tool. Just message him on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for hanging out. If you know someone who needs to hear this episode, share it with a friend and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. Thanks, Phil, for hanging out.
No worries. Thanks, Shell.
If you have enjoyed the show today, forward it to a friend, colleague, or family member who you may think it would benefit. Shelley's business Boldside provides leadership training for a variety of different businesses. To learn more, visit boldside.com.au. If you would like to book Shelley to speak at one of your events, please reach out to the team via moneypodcast.com.au.